themselves. They're carrying on their shoulders a lot of weight. And so we're going to let some of the folks who are here with us tell you how we can make more of them more successful. So Raquel and Roxanne, take the show.
And if I may, Dean, this is Antoinette. Good morning to everybody. Lovely to see your wonderful smiling faces. Just want to speak about Venice Ishibashi. She's one of our guests this morning, and she is a MEC alumna. She is so special to me. Venice and I started our journey together 2 years ago. She was actually working in student affairs, right? As she had graduated and got a part-time position with student affairs, was doing great there, but wanted more from her career. She was about to graduate and wanted to actually have a career and not just a job that wasn't related to her major, which is so important. And so we spoke and we consulted and met, and an opportunity came up for me to refer her to Nanotronics, which is an artificial intelligence optics company, part of Chromo's New York startup, and a strong partner of Medgar Evers. And so I sent her over. Now, Venice is a social work major, Venice, or were you social work?
Psychology, I remember.
Psychology, correct.
I remember.
Got it. I'm so sorry. Got it right. So psychology. And if you know anything about industry, you know how tricky that degree track is. If you are not process driven, if you haven't done a million internships and you're super focused on that degree track, you could get lost in the sauce. I've seen many of students working at Macy's in the shoe department with a psychology degree. So we were very intentional on her process and her pathway, such that we were able to get her an internship in Nano. They then hired her on part-time, and now she's working there full-time in the human resources department, which is extremely meaningful to her major. So now she's not only a MEC alumna, she is also an HR professional who can come back and mentor and speak to our students about getting into the human capacity building industry and things like that. So I thought it was so important for her to come back and tell her story about her journey, but then also how Nanotronics has really supported Medgar students in internships, part-time and full-time opportunities for our students. So I just wanted to kind of do a little brief summary of her and present her to you. The other person, Jared Giles from the Brooklyn Navy Yard, again, we've been working with them, well, me, for 2 years now, and he's been such a great friend to Medgar, such a great advocate to Medgar. They have onboarded a few of our students as interns, and they just recently onboarded another student from the Financial and Economics Department, Mamino Diallo, who will be working there this spring in an internship capacity related to finance and economics. So we have some strong partners out there who are really committed to Medgar Evers students, and they want to enlist them, you know, but they most certainly need for them to have the skills to meet the rigors and expectations. So I'm going to close with that and just say thank you, Venice, for being so graceful and gracious, speaking with us today. And if Jared is on the line, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roxanne, can you introduce our other guest? Elsie and Dima and Dwight Geddes. Fields Jackson could not be with us today, but what I was able to do and what he was able to do was to send us a wonderful presentation that speaks to the diversity that is needed within these organizations. And I put his information and his presentation in the chat box for everyone to take a look at after we finish our meeting today.
Yeah, it was an hour long, so we had to make an executive decision. Thanks.
Yes, and he even put in a good block of time for us to focus on within the chat. You'll see that the time start and end, which is only about 25 to 30 minutes. So you don't have to watch the whole hour, but it would be some great information to receive about what organizations are looking for when it comes to diversity and the kind of talent that they're looking for. Our other guest that we have with us again is Elsie Adema and Dwight Geddes. Elsie is the Director of Talent and Inclusion at Mosaic Group. She will be speaking with us today. She is going to be offering to collaborate with our students this semester on some professional development and also provide some opportunities for internships, paid internships and unpaid internships for our students beginning this summer. Dwight Geddes is an experienced insurance industry professional that Dr. Rose spoke about earlier this morning, and he has a background in claims and risk management. He is going to be speaking to us about what our students need to know for that particular industry. Thank you. So now as we move into our program, I'd like to again welcome our guest for being with us here today. Ms. Foster and I will be running the panel questions, and you should have received many of them in advance, but if not, I'm sure you're ready to start. So I'm going to start, and this is for the entire panel. What does a typical partnership between a hiring organization and a business school or business school department look like throughout a calendar or academic school year?
I guess I can start. I'll volunteer and go. Yeah, honestly, it really is whatever the organization and the school wants to make of it. It could vary. If I want to talk about my company's relationship with Medgar Evers, for example, honestly, it will span anywhere between 3 months to an entire year just for one program. I think it's really up to the school and the organization to decide, you know, what specifically they want to do, whether it be an internship program or a mentorship program or any type of like educational resources we want to bring in from our business experience to the students, and then create a timeline that just works best for everyone.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Mosaic?
Sure. So Mosaic Group, I'll actually start from the top. So Mosaic Group is an IAC company. It's in the technology industry. If anyone is familiar with IAC, they literally have over 150 brands across multiple countries. They're our parent company. Some popular brands you may be familiar with are like Vimeo. They have a lot of the dating sites like Tinder and POF. They just spun off Match Group. And then Mosaic Group is actually the mobile arm of IAC. We do have mobile applications. So within Mosaic Group, we have 4 brands as well. We do have Daily Burn. It's an online health and fitness tech brand. We have iTranslate. It's a translation app. We have RoboKiller. Well, we have, Teltech, and they're most well-known for their RoboKiller application. So if you guys are getting those annoying spam calls, that's what their application takes care of. And then we also have Appleon, and they do a lot of utility applications, productivity apps, pretty much just to make your lifestyle more efficient. So I am doing human resources. We just rebranded ourselves to our people and culture group because everyone is a human being and we don't want to refer to people as resources anymore. And we're trying to have a nice spin on words there. But yeah, so we are in the technology space, and I've been doing recruitment for technology individuals for quite some time. They're not necessarily tech individuals, but just within the tech space, because there are obviously different roles within technology that's not necessarily tied to programming.
Thank you.
Can I add to that also?
Yes.
All right, so through our partnership with Nanotronics and Medgar Evers, we plan to hire 5 interns this year. And also we would like to, to participate in a curriculum development within the computer science department. So
Okay.
that we're definitely looking forward to.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about Nanotronics, Venice?
Ooh, there's so much to talk about. Well, just a quick thing about Nanotronics. It is a science technology company that has redefined factory control throughout the invention of platform that combines AI and automation and sophisticated imaging to detect flaws and anomalies in manufacturing. And industries that has, it is an industry that has remained stagnant since the 1950s. deployed across 8 countries. And, we work with leading edge companies from aerospace to electronics to healthcare. And there's so much more to say, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so I know you spoke about that you're looking for another 5 interns. Is this for the summer or for the fall?
Well, it could be for the summer and it also could be for the fall.
Great. What are you looking for in the interns? What kind of skill sets?
Well, pretty much what we're looking for is interns with some basic knowledge, whether if it's a computer science student, some knowledge. So in that way, we can build from there. And with that basic knowledge, we believe that the student will feel comfortable to what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word?
Well, your company, first of all, takes our students and molds them into professionals, within their majors. And I know in the past you have onboarded computer information system students, you've onboarded computer science students with basic knowledge, and then you've been able to grow them in different areas of your company, whether it be research and development, product automation, and things like that. And so you take our students and you mold them and craft them to be who they are to become. And that's why our partnership with Nanotronics is so strong and your advocacy is so needed and meaningful, especially with our student population.
Exactly, Dr. Robinson. And yeah, and because of that basic knowledge, once they get here, they're very comfortable to be creative. And that helps a whole lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Morning, everyone. Dwight Geddes. I run a company right here in New York, Long Island, called Metro Claims and Risk Management. Been in the insurance industry for quite some time now, and over 20 years, and running my own business now since 2011. Along with what I do in my 9 to 5, for lack of a better term, I'm also actively involved with several insurance organizations. One of them being National African American Insurance Association. I was the immediate past vice president for the last 4 years, and still actively involved, still a member of the board. And one of the things that we're trying to do through that organization and myself, through some of the work that I do throughout the industry, is make people aware of the opportunities within insurance. That being said, the original question, Raquel, I believe, was how it relates to the calendar.
Yes.
What basically happens with a lot of these companies, and I found this out a couple of years ago when we were trying to establish a formal relationship with some of these companies to get more African American students in the internship track. And some of these companies, and I assure you, I could give you the names, but I guarantee you 99% of them you've never heard of, but you would be shocked when I tell you the amount of money that these companies generate and how big they are. That being said, their internships are generally extended in the fall. What would be your fall semester? When myself and others were contacting them about internships, we were reaching out in the spring. By that time, they pretty much filled all the spots already for the interns for the upcoming summer. So, that was our failure to understand the timeline that they're working on. But obviously, that's something that now that we know, we can get, parallel with them to make sure that when we go to them, these companies, and we say, hey, listen, Medgar has several students right here, graduating seniors or, rising juniors, who are looking for a summer internship in the industry. We are now better positioned and not trying to get 1 or 2 spots because the other 100 spots have been filled. So I say that because that's something that we're trying to do. Howard University, and you mentioned Howard University before, they have a insurance and risk management program where they have several students, and I have met with those students when they've been to New York. They normally do what's called a day in insurance, and they'll have 50 to 100 students from Howard come to New York, and they will go to different companies that are based here, AIG and Zurich and all these other companies that are based right here in New York, and they will they'll have people take them around, show them what happens in a day in the life of whatever underwriter, actuary, whatever the case may be. And in doing that, they're getting exposure that a student in Medgar Evers won't get, but they're getting that because they already have an established program. So we have to figure out the best way to approach it where you guys don't have an established insurance program, but you have business majors. So there is opportunity here. There is certainly room to make sure that we're represented, and it's important. And the reason why I say it's important, and I'll get into the details of that later, is just that there are a lot right now of people that are leaving the industry due to age, and these positions are not being filled. And these positions are not redundant because it's not as though technology is taking over these positions. It's just that the industry is not doing a good job of marketing itself as a career destination, and certainly not marketing it into us. But the people that generation that's leaving the workforce right now is leaving a void, and they're looking for people to fill it. And my position is, if there are opportunities out there for younger people coming into the insurance industry, I want to make sure that people that look like me, you, and everybody else on this call is right at the front of the line. How do we do that?
That's what we're hoping you tell us. How do we do that?
I have some ideas.
Good.
So I don't want to keep just rambling on. So
Thank you for that. We have Mr. Jarrett Giles here, and Mr. Giles is from the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Mr. Giles, what does a typical partnership between a hiring organization and a business school or a business school department look like throughout a calendar or academic year?
Well, thank you all for having me first. I appreciate being here. I think I can answer that in the context of our internship programs as well. So I know we've talked a little bit about timelines. So we have, at the Navy Yard, we have two main internship programs, and in the spring semester and over the summer. And in order to market those opportunities to students and to connect with your students, we really maintain relationships throughout the entire school year. So if we're thinking about the beginning of the fall semester, for example, we'll reach out to Dr. Roberson in the Career Services Center and talk to you all about how we can be involved throughout the year. So that could be information sessions, that could be virtual resume workshops or in-person resume workshops if we get back to that, interview sessions, mock interview sessions, anything like that. Or they could also be conversations with individual classes or departments. We're really happy to do whatever we can do to connect directly with students in whatever way. So if there are any faculty on this call who would like the Navy Yard to come into your classroom to talk about internship opportunities, we're definitely happy to do that. We've done that across different colleges and classrooms in Brooklyn. Moving more into the year, once we're preparing for our spring internship program, we begin that in October. And so we really do a lot of direct outreach, again, to the Career Services Center and sometimes directly to professors to ask to get students applying to our program to make sure that we get as many as possible, because as soon as we start interviewing, that application window closes, and we want to make sure we get as many Medgar students in the application or in the interview period as possible. Moving forward then into our summer internship preparation, which happens in your spring semester, we do the same thing. So it's really, again, about outreach. We host multiple virtual sessions with all of our college partners, including Medgar Evers. We're happy to do information sessions, as many as we need to do with your students. And we really just ask that you let us know what you need and are responsive in saying, like, we want you to do the information session. We want you to come talk to our class. We want you to come talk to, or to host this resume workshop, for example, with our students, that we can then do that and advertise our summer internship opportunity. We typically, that window is open between the month of February. So really the beginning of February and the first week of March or so. That's the application period. We begin interviewing in the middle of February, though. So we interview on a rolling basis. So it's best for students to apply as soon as possible so they can go ahead and interview. And as they're interviewing, we begin matching with businesses for those summer internship opportunities. So the sooner students apply, the better chance they have of getting interviewed early and then being matched with the business, assuming they pass through the interview. And we host our interviews. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask for the faculty that would like for you to come speak in their classes this spring. Should they go directly through Dr. Roberson, or should they reach out directly to you?
Whichever process is best for you all. I'm happy to. I can share my information in the chat here. So if they want to reach out to me directly, that's fine. Or I'm Dr. Roberson. If you'd like to facilitate that conversation, I'm perfectly fine with that as well. But either way is fine with me.
Thank you.
Of course. And the last thing I'll say is our summer program is hosted. We have 2 separate sessions for it. So there's one that begins at the beginning of June and goes until the beginning of August, and another that begins at the end of June and goes until about the end of August. And we host about 72 interns over the summer, every summer. So, again, like I said, we would want to make sure that as many Medgar students are getting in that pipeline as possible, so that they get interviewed and
can you just share about the business. 1 or 2 Medgar students that we had? My recollection is we've had at least 1 or 2 stars there. They might be a few years ago, if you recall.
I'm sorry. I think my connection was messed up when you asked that question. Do you mind just repeating it?
I would like for you, if you had experience with the internship, the summer internships, I recall, if you could just share with them. You had 2, a male and a female, and at least I remember there was some good experience on your part. I just want to share with the faculty some of the good work that they did to help prepare those students.
Definitely. So we had a conversation. I think there's a question about how some basic knowledge that students need coming into these opportunities. Something that we really appreciate at the Navy Yard is, regardless of what you're doing in terms of the job itself or the internship, making sure that students come in really wanting to work hard, they're professional, they're prepared to enter the workspace, they're proactive, they know how to ask questions, and they know how to kind of adapt to different environments. So we've had a lot of students who are really good at those things, and so no matter where they go, they can succeed. And even if they're, obviously we still have a lot to learn, but even if they do have a lot to learn, they're willing to ask questions, they're willing to learn and to really just observe and be a student in that space. So we've had some really great students from Medgar who have done that. One in particular that I'm thinking of is Danielle Spencer. She worked with, I believe she was a biology major, but she worked with one of our companies called Farm Shelf on the Yard, which creates these like large cabinets of a hydroponic system of a farming unit. So she would work on restocking the shelving units throughout the Navy Yard and working and building the units as well. And she was just kind of an all-star. She got hired part-time as well because she was still in school. So after the internship, they hired her part-time to continue working with them. So I would see her around the Navy Yard throughout the year. And she was really the person that said, I don't necessarily have the experience in this, but I'm somebody who really wants to work hard. I'm somebody who really wants to just gain experience and be a professional. So I'm willing to do this work and learn within it. So she's a great example. We've had other great examples of students from Medgar Evers who have done great jobs in their internships, and we wanted to see that replicated and see more students coming through our programs.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, you're muted.
As always, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, I'm multitasking. If you guys could please answer, at what point in a student's 4-year academic career, which is traditional time frame, do your hiring organizations typically perform your first touch, for example, your senior year, just after graduation? Do you conduct fireside chats in the sophomore year or in junior year, as well as internships?
Guess I'll take that one. Okay, so industry standard within the tech industry, for example, I would say this is fairly standard. It would depend. So typically, if you have not had your internship already, you wouldn't have that touch point with an organization. So if you've like gone through all 4 years of college and you have not had an internship, you're highly unlikely going to have any type of relationship with an organization. And then they'll be looking at you once you're a senior, when you start applying, because obviously you're trying to land a job before you graduate. So I would say like, it's either if you've had an internship working with the organization, and at any point, it could be freshman to senior, because my organization, for example, we do have interns ranging between freshman to senior year. So if you haven't had an internship, your touch base will be at the time of your senior year, which we're, as an organization, trying to stray away from. We're trying to hit students as early as possible, because one of the studies that I've been doing, it just shows the unemployment rate for example, for Black students, once they graduate from college, is a lot higher than their white counterparts. And one of the reasons why is because they need experience to get experience, which is so silly, but unfortunately it's true. It's one of those things where you need 1 to 3 years of work experience to land your first job, which is pretty much ridiculous, but it's the reality. So one of the things that my company is doing, for example, is we do have an extended internship program, which we are dedicating to interns to Medgar Evers. So whichever students apply and get those 2 spots, it's Medgar Evers spots. But what our aim is to have them leave with at least 1 year of experience, so that they're entering the job market with 1 solid year of experience from one organization that will make searching for a job a lot easier.
Well, let me add to that. For non-electronic, it's a bit different, because towards your 4-year period, you can apply for an internship at any point. Am I muted? No.
Nope.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. We can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, so if the student is a freshman, junior, senior, it really doesn't matter. They can apply at any point in time.
Well, I can say that, you know, for the insurance industry, and again, I am not a recruiter, but what we're doing is working to become the conduit for African-American students to get into the industry, especially from schools that do not have, you know, a established connection with the larger companies in the industry. That being said, there are some companies out there that start recruiting when these kids are in high school seniors, and they'll have them come as summer interns. There'll be scholarships and grants awarded at that time. Certainly when they're in college, that's going to continue, but the focus would be in college at the 3rd and 4th year, juniors and seniors. That's when you're going to see the main focus from the industry, because they're looking for those people who have shown a commitment to working in the industry. And I said something earlier that, you know, I just want to correct myself here. One of the beautiful things about the insurance industry, and I mentioned business students, there are people from every single academic background within the insurance industry, because one thing about the industry is that no matter what you do in life, you need insurance. And if you need insurance, there's an army of people behind the scenes working to make sure that that runs smoothly. And it is the biggest industry in the world. It is. You know, you talk about any other industry, they need insurance too. But what is happening is that we're buying the insurance, obviously, but we're not being represented in the industry. And that's what we need to get to. We need to get to that point where we're more represented in the industry. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we also accept students throughout their 4 years, even when they first graduated from high school and will be going into being freshmen. Our programs are open. Our summer program is open to high school seniors who are graduating, all the way up to seniors who have just graduated. And our spring program is open to students who are currently in school, specifically those who are looking for internship credit for a course that they need to take. But we're open to all students.
So for our next question, what type of faculty interactions work best with your organizations? What kind of faculty interactions have you seen? Because we wanted to know not just what career services can do, what the dean's office can do, but what can faculty do to encourage or improve students' chances at finding employment after graduation?
For me, I would say faculty interaction would be very helpful in identifying candidates for internship. That would definitely help a lot.
And how would they do that for nanotronics?
Well, how that would help, because the faculty knows the student, better than the director in career services. So if we can get that, if we can get the faculties just actually aware of what internship positions we have available and let it be known to the student, they can also help identify which student will be ideal or would be qualified for that internship position.
I completely agree. And networking is absolutely key. It's like almost an extra reference check for us to get the faculty's feedback on some recommended students. Like, for example, I desperately need an HR intern right now. I'm just throwing that out there. So if any of you know, I'm going to send your school a job description. So, so, for example, like that's where I'm going to get a great referral from, faculty who's working with their students, they're putting the word out, and then I'm getting, the type of student that, I would be looking for who would hopefully be interested in this career.
Hear that, faculty? She's looking for an HR intern.
Yes. I need this person like yesterday.
I can say the interaction with faculty is crucial because, as expressed before, faculty knows the students and their capabilities and strengths better than, a career director. What we want to do is work with faculty to get students who, may have an interest. And again, the biggest hurdle is not getting students who have interest, is making them aware of the opportunities. Because if you don't know, you don't know, and you're not going to be interested in an industry that you don't know about. And most people, when they think of insurance, they think of, life insurance, sales, commercials on TV, and not understanding that, there are people, there are attorneys, nurses, doctors, engineers, every single background represented in the industry, actuaries. And, actuaries, I believe the last report I saw showed that actuaries coming out of college, that's the #1 earning profession, in the country, if I'm not mistaken. It certainly was a couple of years ago when I saw it. And if that's the case, where do you think most of these actuaries are working? Financial services industry, which includes insurance.
Onion on that. What kind of skills will an actuary have to have or should have coming out to demand that kind of salary?
A degree.
That's
I'd
it.
agree. I'd agree. The fact that you have a degree in actuarial studies, actuarial science, means that you're going to get paid coming out of college, period. And that's just the blunt truth. Listen, I can tell you that I was a pretty good student in college. I can tell you this much. There was no way you could get me to consider being an actuary, because that was just way too much math for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but I still found my niche within the industry, and you know, it has worked out pretty well. But you know, the skill set that you need, I understand your question, but understand also that if you're talking about another school, a predominantly white institution, they're not asking what experience you have. You're walking in there with a degree, and your degree is in actuarial science, and you're going to get paid commensurate to the level, you know, what that position is paying.
Okay, so let me ask the question another way. Positioning wise, we don't have an actuarial science degree. And I would imagine in that designation, there are a few folks that look like us. What can we do as a faculty and a team to help position our students to even be considered?
There is an organization called National Association of Black Actuaries. There's actually an organization. I'm familiar with them. I know people that, you know, are involved with it, and they work with schools, again, similar to what we're doing right now with NIE, to make people aware of the opportunities within that specific field. I am not an actuary, but I can tell you that in the industry, they are crucial, they're vital, and they make a lot of money in what they do. And if they say that you're not going to do this as a company, guess what? You're not doing it. You ask me what they do on a day-to-day basis, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. But I'm just giving you, that's one example of you know, of position in the industry. There are many other positions. There are, I ran into it, not ran into it, because we had a Zoom call the other day with a gentleman who works as a fine arts underwriter, and he works for a company, and they insure fine arts. This is what they do, and he was telling me how much money he made, and I was about to switch careers, because, you know, again, this was his background in college, art history, and that he transitioned from that to a career in insurance, where he is now helping to place values on works of art. And because he was African American, and by African American I mean he was actually first generation. His parents were from Africa, and I guess they may have been involved in that business, you know, back in Africa. So I don't remember exactly where in Africa they were from, but because of that experience, I guess he had some background in art, and he could help certainly when it came to African art. So he found a niche and he ran with it, and, you know, doing quite well. But again, these are just different examples of people who, you know, come from different backgrounds and are in the industry. You will find a lot of people that are simply just business majors, finance majors in the industry. You know, you also find English majors. And if you've ever looked at an insurance policy, you will see why you have an English major. Those things, you can't make a mistake with a word on one of these policies, because you're going to end up in court, and that one word is going to make the difference between $1 million verdict for you and walking away from a $1 million judgment. So there's a lot that can be done, but the important thing is understanding the possibilities that are there. The biggest issue in the industry is they market themselves very well for their product. They don't market themselves very well as a career choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat for you asked by Dr. V. Is Mr. Geddes, do you have a prepared information that you can send faculty to share with our students? A targeted video, for example?
Not at this moment. We have a PowerPoint presentation that we've used talking to students, but you have to understand, and what we're working on right now, and we're trying to schedule this as we speak. The organization NIA works with several local colleges, and I worked with them over the years, including Medgar. We want to, again, have a closer relationship and try to get more students into the industry. What we plan on doing over the next few weeks is having a symposium where we're going to have several people from within the industry discuss the industry with students. Hopefully we'll have Medgar students. We're going to have students also from St. John's, and we're going to have students from Queens College, and we're waiting to hear from a couple other schools. But we're going to have students who are going, and again, a student from St. John's who goes to the School of Insurance is obviously going to have an advantage because they're in a 4-year program dedicated to insurance. But majority of the other students won't. And our goal is to make sure that they they're not coming in, on equal footing with someone who has a actuarial science degree, but your finance degree is not something to be sneezed at either. So we're trying to position all the students of color in the best possible light to get into the industry. And that starts with making them aware of what's there. I can tell you about my experiences. What I do is one small piece of a global billion-dollar industry. So I want, we're going to have other speakers that are there who are going to be talking about the industry, how they got into the industry, and, the opportunities that are here right now.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Giles, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll only add, number one, that I just agree with everything that has been said so far. We work pretty closely with faculty across the board with our different partners. Number one, as people have said, it helps us connect directly to students that may be good fits for some of our internship opportunities or our job opportunities that we have. We also have different requirements that professors help us fulfill. So for example, in our spring program, students have to complete or have to sign up for an internship course to receive credit for the internship. We work pretty closely with faculty at each of our colleges to make sure that students are doing that. Or if there's a student who just doesn't know how to do that or doesn't know how to navigate that system, faculty help a lot in making sure that gets done. And like I said before, we work with faculty to present to classes as well. So if there's an entrepreneurship class, for example, a finance class, a business administration class that wants us to come in, we're happy to work directly with that faculty member to talk with students. The last thing I would say is we have started working with faculty on curriculum development. So thinking through what's available on the Navy Yard, for example, what are people asking for, what skills or experiences are employers hiring based off of, and is that reflected in the curriculum that's being taught in certain colleges and certain programs, and then giving that feedback to faculty members so that if at all possible, curriculum can be adjusted or products can be presented in different ways so that students are coming out prepared to work within those industries.
The curriculum development and collaboration that you're working on, is this with CUNY schools and non-CUNY schools alike?
Yeah, so right now we're piloting it with City Tech, so with a CUNY school, and we hope to continue that and to be able to share with the rest of our partners, specifically those in Brooklyn, like St. Francis, like Medgar, Brooklyn College. But we haven't done a lot of that work so far, so we're really trying to figure out exactly the best way to do it first, and then of course, if we find anything, we'll be able to share that with everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, you're muted.
That actually leads us directly into the next question. How does your firm work with business schools or business departments as a partner in curriculum development? And can you walk us through what that might look like for us as we partner with you?
I can start again. So, well, one of the new programs that we're actually piloting with Medgar Evers is our Expanding Access program. And I actually reached out to Dean Roll because I was looking for a school that was local in New York City that honestly had a high population of underrepresented students that wasn't like a massive HBCU, because we all know when things happen in the news, companies always want to jump to like the Spelmans and just to try and snatch up those students. And I feel like in situations like that, you miss out on wonderful opportunity that's literally in your backyard. So in this particular program, it's going to be a lecture series where like our executive team is actually going to be coming into the school and hosting sessions on their different backgrounds and roles and skill sets and traits and things that are like really valuable for the students. And I think that in doing this, there can absolutely be collaboration with the instructors as we're measuring how this program looks to see if it's something that you want to start incorporating into your actual curriculum. So I think that this would be like a wonderful test subject, but I think that that's an example of one of the ways that we would be able to work with the business and instructors to bring curriculum to the students that would be engaging and really valuable for them in the future.
Thank you.
I can also add a little bit to what I was saying before. We've had experiences where we've brought groups of faculty members onto the Navy Yard and hosted kind of sessions with some of our businesses as well, so you can hear directly from them about what they're looking for, experiences they've had with interns in the past, or and also just to kind of see what's available in general with our different companies. So that's also something we're happy to help facilitate. Is if we want to do this virtually or whenever things open back up, you want to come to the Navy Yard. Really getting faculty members connected directly with those businesses helps a lot. So when we're talking about internship programs or when students have the opportunity to work on the yard, so that there's not this, there's not always a kind of middleman of myself or someone I work with communicating between you and our businesses.
So that sounds like there's opportunities for a virtual field trip, so to speak, with some of these companies.
Right, exactly.
Working directly with Dr. Robinson, it's great because in that way, both of our needs are met. So for instance, when we have, the positions that we have available, we'll send it over to her, job descriptions and so forth, and she will look through that and see what candidates to send over to us. So working with Dr. Robinson, it makes things way much easier.
I think just to add to that, in having instructors work with businesses, I think it makes the entire college experience more engaging. And I'm just gonna like reference my master's program, for example. I don't think that, everything I went through in my undergrad, I swear is in my repressed memory. But because I have, real life work experience to tie it to, or like case studies from like actual organizations, it like really has you thinking about like I'm going to apply what's going on in this classroom to like this case study or something that this actual individual from this business is, working with my instructor on. So I just think that like gets you really thinking and you're like, okay, I can apply this here. And it just makes it way more engaging and it will probably stay in their memory longer than my undergrad year stayed in my memory.
I'm going to apologize, Roxanne. I'm going to ask you if you could just repeat the question again for me, please.
Oh, sure. Sorry. How does your firm or your company or organization work with us in terms of, or work with partners in developing curriculum, and what does that look like? Because of course we want our curriculum to match what you want on the outside, but maintain the integrity of the academic theories and principles that need to be taught.
Well, there are different ways to go about doing that. There are a school like Medgar that does not have an insurance program, but has a business school, right? Undergraduate degrees in business. That is going to prepare you coming in the door in the sense that you could get, a position just with that 4-year degree. The industry itself is not predicated so much on what your undergraduate degree is, because as I've said before, there are people coming within the industry from several different academic backgrounds. But obviously, without having the experience in the industry, it will be a little bit more difficult because the learning curve will be a little bit higher. One of the things that we've talked about doing as an organization and that has not been put in place yet, but it's something that we're still trying to figure out the best way to do this, is to have licensing training that can run concurrently with the academic requirements. Because if you come into the industry and you're already licensed as a broker, agent, adjuster, whatever the case may be, you obviously have a leg up than someone else coming in who does not have a license. And the license is not dependent on having a degree or not. That is certainly the way that I would say is the most straightforward route to work with the faculty to get buy-in and involvement from the industry. I hope that answers your question. I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Thank you.
No problem.
For our next question, and you spoke to this, Dwight, how critical is specialized teaching and learning to your various organizations that you represent? How important is it for students to have particular degree specialization coming out of Medgar Evers?
Elsie, you don't have to go first this time. I'll take that one first. The degree itself, again, the specialization of the degree is not that important in the industry. But obviously, graduating with a degree in business is a very straightforward way to get in the front door because you have a business background. Again, insurance falls under the global umbrella of financial services. So financial services is a very wide net that covers a whole lot of different things, which includes, economics, finance, and banking, and so on. And insurance is the linchpin that connects all of it. So coming in with a degree and coming with a business degree, like I said, is a straightforward way to get into the industry. The specialization itself is not as important as getting in. Now, what will help is getting into some of the internship programs that are currently there. Because as I mentioned before, a lot of these companies, they have their internship programs and they start vetting and offering, these things in the fall semester. And if you're not on that track, you're not going to get considered. So that would be the important thing, to make sure that is,
Yeah, I can add to that. I completely agree with everything you said. I think there's two sides to the conversation. One of them is if you're a student who wants to have that specialized education, who wants that specialized path, like within accounting or something like that, or actuarial studies, then that's great. You can definitely find roles within that, but that also doesn't discount someone who may be a more generalized business major and is going to look for a job or an internship. As long as you have can showcase, I think, the degree itself, or some skills in which you've learned or experience that you've had within that, then you're good to go. I think the question is really about positioning yourself as the student who's applying to something, and making sure that you're not trying to go for that role that requires specialized training or specialized education if you don't have those skills yet, or if you in some way cannot reflect that you've learned those things. In which case it would be easier for somebody who does have that accounting path to get that job over you. But that doesn't mean you can't find good employment, that you can't find a good internship. It just means that you have to be smart about what you're applying to.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, I think it's more so the career clarity on the part of the student. So yeah, if you do have that specialization, it just makes it a little bit more apparent, okay, this is the direction that you may want to go. I mean, if you have a business degree, that's also awesome because you could literally do like 1,000,001 things within business, but you just really do have to position yourself and be strategic about the way you are, shopping for your internships or your roles so that you're only highlighting the experience that's like relevant to that. So I think that's also a huge part of where like the career development teams will come in and assist in like how to cater your resume when you do have a more general major for those specific roles that you're targeting.
Venice, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, and since as we are a science technology company, what is most important to us is that we have people who are intellectual, I would say qualified, because the people, the ones that are successful here are the ones that can adapt and apply what they know to something brand new.
So I see that degree specialization may not, for students who don't have a specialized degree, and I've heard that students can definitely find their niche within various organizations. What type of skills should they have when they don't have a specialized degree when trying to enter into a particular industry?
Well, I'm going to give me, for example, I've never worked in HR before. I've never thought I would work in HR. It was never part of my plan to work in HR. But being at Medgar, and I did, a bunch of different jobs. Those jobs were, I would say, legs for me to stand on here in Nanotronics. So what I did when I came here with all those odd jobs that I did in Medgar, I was able to build on them here at Nanotronics, and that's the reason why I was able to thrive. I'm thriving right now in HR.
I can't stop but help to say, I love it when a mega student says, I'm thriving. I'm not just surviving. We hear some of the sad stories, but recruiters and friends and partners, we have an example. She just said this was not in her dream. She didn't have any exposure to the technology firm, but she had good mega TLC. And look at her now.
Well said, Dr. Hope. And yeah, it is the truth. I never thought I would ever work in HR. And when I graduated in 2019, I kind of, was a bit lost, like, oh my God, what kind of job am I going to apply for with a bachelor in psychology? I had no idea. When I go on like Indeed, I had no idea what to even look for. So to be here and
Venice, I'm going to interrupt. She did have some TLC from the entrepreneurship faculty before she left here. So this was a whole family job.
Yes. But
give credit where credit is due.
So now when I see myself here and I'm doing onboarding and offboarding, and now I'm learning how to go through resumes and look, which candidate would be the ideal candidate to, send to which manager or with what department. I got to give it to Medgar. I'm sorry, but I do. Well, I'm not sorry at all, but.
You know what, I want to say that, that is a great point. And one of the things that someone mentioned networking earlier, and I think that's a very important thing that, certainly through COVID, we've lost the ability to do that as well as before. But networking is a crucial part of the business. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that in the years that I've been working in the insurance industry, and I've been in the industry now 20 something years. I don't want to give away my age, but it's been a lot of years. But that being said, I have never gotten a client or a job without it coming from someone that I knew or someone recommended me or my company to that client. And, you know, it's something that the insurance industry is a huge industry, but it is also very small in the sense that you're going to see the same people over and over again. So networking is important. And, you know, again, it's just a matter of making sure that, you know, Medgar and the students are plugged in to that network. So the first step for me is awareness. You got to be aware of it and got to be aware of what's there. The second step is, you know, once you're aware, find a path. You know, you may try something and say, listen, I don't necessarily like this particular field within the industry. Maybe I want to do that. You know, I started out in New York working on auto, working in claims and working on auto claims within a company. And, you know, for the last 15 years now, I've been doing primarily property stuff, where I've gone to different places around the country, disaster areas where they've had natural disasters, trying to help people, you know, recover from that. So, you know, and that's not what I envisioned 20 years ago, but that's just where the career has taken me.
And I want to add something. You know, I'm not the only one who's thriving here at Medgar Evers. We have other students from Medgar that are thriving at Nanotronics. Like just a month ago, we just hired someone, and she is a junior purchasing associate, and she's doing great. And she's still in school, and she got her own office. And then this week, this intern, his name is Luis. He started last year early, and he just got promoted to full-time position. And we had Karian, who did 1 semester here at Nanotronics, and she was a social work student major, and she worked with the marketing team for a whole semester, and she had a great time. So, and then there was another intern who did, I think it was 2, yeah, he did quite a bit of time here, and Nanotronics really, really wanted to keep him, but he had to move out of state.
So let me just say that we had our salutatorian for 2020 to on board at Nanotronics. Would you just say a little bit about her experience?
Are we talking about Lauren, who started a month ago?
Yes, we're talking about Lauren, who started a month ago.
Yeah, so she's a junior purchasing intern. I did a whole onboarding process for her, and also her orientation, you know, and Lauren is still in school. She's doing great. It's been a month, I think, and she's doing great, and she's her own office. And her schedule is extremely flexible because she's in school, so she pretty much makes her own schedule. So she also have the flexibility of working from home and also in the office.
Okay, so I'm gonna say just a little bit more about Lauren for the faculty. And economics and finance, you might kick me, but Lauren was one of the ones who was in economics and finance, was our celebratory, has a wonderful story. This is a woman who was homeless and came back and earned high grades and was working. So when I talk about grit and determination, that's the caliber of our students. But Lauren also had applied for graduate school at the same time she was looking for opportunities. I think she was working in one of the offices at Medgar, but a prime example of our students doing whatever it takes. They come to us ready, and hopefully we could get more of them placed in good positions like the one she has at Nanotronics.
Doctor, well, I got to add to that, okay? Sometimes we don't come to Medgar already. We come not ready, but Medgar, you know, prepared us, because for me, I was a high school dropout. You know, I dropped out of school at age 17 because of, you know, medical issues. And then at 36, I decided to, you know, challenge myself for a GED. So I joined the Medgar Evers GED program, and after failing 4 times, I passed on a 5th time. So college was never even a part of my plan. The only reason why I ended up at Medgar, because I live next door to the college. I did not want to face Dr. Russell, who was the director of the GED program, and also some of the professors who taught the program. And so that's the reason why I even started college. But my college experience was beautiful. 4 years, it was awesome.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. Like, I just love hearing stories like that. Seriously, honestly, it's never too late. If you want to do it, go and do it. But just to add to what everyone has been saying, as far as necessary skills, one thing I will say is, well, networking is my favorite word. I throw that word out left and right. But there are certain skills that are absolutely transferable. So, for example, for the intern that I'm looking for, they don't need to have experience within the human resources space. There are things that they're going to gain out of having a role like that, like project management skills, which is absolutely necessary, coordination, just being able to work with certain programs, whether it's Excel or Word, and be able to do presentations and have good communication skills. So these are things that are transferable across various different roles, and those are things that are really important for the students to get.
If you don't mind, unless someone else has something to add, I'd like to move on to the very, to a question that hopefully will be therapeutic, and I ask it with great humility. Are there problematic areas among bachelor degree graduates that are widespread at the different business schools? For example, Excel proficiency, critical thinking, writing, or any other soft skills for which we can be prepared to address?
I can start with that. Thank you for asking that question, first of all. So we at the Navy Yard, we for our summer internship program received 946 applicants for our program last year and interviewed about just over 600 people. And so we see a lot of different people, a lot of different stages of their interviewing experience, and from a lot of different schools. And I think one thing that we see constantly is that when people are coming into these situations in an interview, there are students who know exactly how to present in those moments, and there are students who know the way they dress, the way they speak, the way they've gone through the resume, having the resume available, the way it's being constructed, knowing just how to relate your experience to the opportunity that's available. These different things that I think are common among kind of later in life when you're going through interviews. We definitely understand that not everyone has that experience, but as much as possible, students being able to at least be kind of on the first step of being prepared within that is really helpful, so that we know that they want this opportunity. We know that students who we've seen students who have come in, looking any kind of way, not knowing what they're applying for, not knowing anything about the companies that are available, not knowing anything about the Navy Yard or about the internship, or even really about what they've done and what they want to do. And while not everyone has to know what they want to do in the future, and not everyone has to be an expert on what we do at the Navy Yard, everyone should have researched something. Everyone should have some reason for being in the room. So if you can speak to those things, that's great. But if you can't, then that's where we found a problem, where students just are not prepared to come into that environment. So as much as possible, whether that's the Career Services Center or within the classroom with faculty, practicing those professional skills in terms of being proactive when you're preparing for the interview, knowing what professionalism means when you're going to those spaces, especially if you're going directly into the business spaces where certain businesses are not going to be as accommodating, I'll say, in some ways, and actually coaching you and teaching you. They're going to expect you to be prepared and to get started on day one. And if you aren't prepared, then they're not going to want to continue with you. So we want to make sure that students, when they're with us, are getting that preparation, but at the same time, when they're coming out of these programs at Medgar or other schools, that they at least have some idea of where they need to go, so that they can kind of build on that once they're in the position.
I'd like to add something to the discussion. This is Dr. Roberson from the Career Center. Great topic, great discussion today. I really appreciate all the insight given by our panelists today. I look at career development threefold, right? Exposure. A lot of our students don't succeed because they're not aware. They're not exposed to career development. Historically, in Black and Brown households, we're not driven to onboard into a career. We're driven to onboard into a job, to sustain and to pay and to support our families and things like that. So exposure is critical. And next, engagement through experiential learning opportunities. I think it's a very nice balance between faculty and the Career Center. It's almost like a marriage, right? It's a 50-50 partnership. My faculty teach the hard skills from the academic perspective, and then I teach the soft skills in the Office of Career Services. We take it outside of the classroom so that they can assert themselves and get into the actual opportunity. And lastly, it's empowered. If you're exposed and you're engaged, you are empowered. And that leads to sustainability on your internship or your job. And of course, hopefully scalability, where you can move up in that environment. And so I just really want to bring that to the forefront, you know, that career services is a partner at the university. It helps you develop those soft skills, those transferable skills that we were talking about, and position those in areas of meaning, right? And we also talk about in career services or advising, you know, that resume, you know, making sure that the resume is 100% effective. If you don't have an effective resume, you've already taken yourself out of the game, right? And so we want to make sure that our kids have the resume, but then thereafter that they have those interviewing skills, those refined interviewing skills. We provide them strategies and methodologies on enhancing those areas, because you can have a spectacular resume and then go in and bomb the interview. It's all a process that links together. Dressing for success, making sure that when you show up now for the virtual interviews, that you're still dressed appropriately, and what that looks like and why that's so significant. 93% of the impression is made from the first time. And so if you come off without that dressing, professional, clean look, tight look, you can also take yourself out of the game. Networking, branding, talking about team communication, diversity, understanding why diversity is so important, you know, and being culturally responsive. Those are all aspects of career development that we take beyond the classroom. And also from a metric standpoint, doing pre-test, post-test, and test while you're actually on the job, right? To make sure that you are moving forward in a successful manner, that you're working through any problems on the position. You know how to insert yourself with your supervisor and talk about situations or challenges, and you can move through those successfully, not from an emotional standpoint, but from a proactive perspective. All of these things are critical. So in addition to my fantastic faculty who are teaching the hard skills that are necessary, those soft skills are equally important. And that's why the marriage between faculty and career development, or the Career Center, works. And when it works, it's great. You get the Lauren Whites onboarded as purchasing associate for nanotronics. You get the Mamano Diallo onboarded as an intern with the Brooklyn Navy Yard this year. And again, with our Brooklyn Navy Yard partnership, what we have done this year, because we wanted to get more students involved and onboarded, is when students apply, Jared and Edwin then circle back with us and say, okay, Dr. Roberson, these are the 3 students who have applied. So then that gives us the opportunity now to continue working on the onboarding skills with the students, revising the resumes, having them come in for 2 or 3 interviews, and making sure that they are ready and confident to onboard into these positions, leading to success. So definitely want to bring that to the forefront, that we are here to partner with the campus, but most certainly are a critical and vital area of the onboarding process for students. Thank you.
Okay,
Dr. Roberson.
Wait a minute. I want to say this. I have to give kudos to Dr. Roberson and her leadership since she's been here a couple of years. She shared with me some of those resumes that was going out, and it was no wonder why our students weren't getting placed. It wasn't that they didn't have what it takes, but they didn't know how to present themselves. And I could say that some of those positions that she talked about is because the Career Center took a hard look. There might have been some tears when they finished with those papers, but they were effective, because if your resume is not right at the starting gate, you won't get a chance to be in that 600 interviews that Mr. Giles talked about. They will weed you out in the wastebasket long before the interviews. So the key, one of the most important factors that she brought to my attention was that the resumes needed heavy lifting, and still do. I mean, resumes that I personally looked at and said, oh, this is okay. By the time she finished with it, I thought it was a magic wand that had gone over that paper. So they are indeed our partners.
Thank you, Dr.
Can I just chime in with a quick question?
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm pretty intimate with Lauren as a finance faculty major, and you know, she's an easy student. You ask her to do something, she does it. You say, I need somebody to be president of the finance club. She'll like, I'll do it. But my question, Dr. Roberson, as partnering with you, is what can we do to encourage students to take advantage of what you have? Because when we have required classes or grades or classes for their major or minor, they're gonna be involved with us. What can we do to push them to get that soft stuff that they absolutely need from you?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you, Dr. Z. And we have definitely worked on a few initiatives successfully with students in the past. I would just say when I send out the events, upcoming events and things of that nature, that you strongly brand those within your departments, and you really encourage, because we can't mandate, encourage students to participate, and also talk about the critical importance of these kinds of exercises.
I hate to interrupt, but they can give extra credit.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would be lovely. And place it in your syllabi, right? That's the best way for a student to acquiesce to something, is to see it in their syllabi, because they're already equating it to their grade, right? So those are some strategies that we've used in the past as well, and they've been successful. But overall, you are the first line of defense with the students. They're going to take what you say as the gospel. And so we all know for ourselves how important it was to onboard properly and process driven in getting in our current positions and or positions that we've had in the past. So we know how critically important it is to be developed from a career development standpoint. We should really be pushing those notions and thoughts to our students who are coming to us as the subject matter experts to guide and direct us. So if I were to give any kind of thought or resolution to how we can move this thing forward, that would be it. Position the career events in your syllabi, provide credit, but most of all, talk about your story and why it was so important for you to understand how to onboard successfully in your career.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of great information and points. I just wanted to circle back to what was said before with regards to the resumes. Resumes are very important, and I can tell you, I can't begin to count the amount of people that have been disqualified, no matter how good they are on paper, because their resumes just looks like they put it together on a typewriter from 1975, and just grammatical and spelling errors throughout. It's not good. The other thing I do want to point out, though, is that the working environment has changed tremendously. 2020, up to 2020, it had changed tremendously from when I first entered the workforce, and it has changed significantly again over the last year. That being said, I can ask every single faculty member on here, please let your students know, be careful what they post on social media. I am telling you now, that somebody who's hired hundreds of people in my time in insurance, and I know people who hire for different companies. I have never even brought somebody in for an interview without looking them up first online. So if you're wondering why you're not getting calls, look at your social media profile. You may have stuff on there that a lot of employers may find objectionable, or they may just look at that and say, I don't know if I want to even consider this person for this job. And young people a lot of times don't get it, but it is just as important in 2021 as having a great resume.
And that's such a important point, Mr. Geddes. Thank you so much for making that. And again, when you look at your career centers, your campus career centers, we provide those kinds of exercises for our students regularly throughout the semester. The virtual presence and career success, the professional etiquette, branding, who you are, all of those different modules are presented throughout the semester. So again, our faculty are critically important. Of course they are, but career service and development is equally important in the student's process.
I had a question.
Sure. Before you go, Dr. Ford, I want to thank our panelists for being with us today, and we are going to open the floor up for questions from our faculty. And again, I thank you for all of the information that you've provided to the team here today. Dr. Ford, go ahead with your question.
Yes, it's a comment / question, and it's kind of goes along with this notion of the soft skills, hard skills that with which we're all familiar. And what I'm referring to is that I would like to suggest that it's not a bright line of demarcation between who focuses on the soft skills as opposed to hard skills. Obviously, career management should be and does focus on the soft skills and the utilization and direction of those soft skills. But we as faculty members can't think that we don't play a part with respect to that. Whether it's, students come, of course, they don't come into the classrooms these days, but I'd have to tell young men when they come into my class, can't wear a hat in the class. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's, if you can't do that, I don't know where you're going to work. Students still will respond to a faculty, to a professor in class with I don't know, those kinds of things. And, to insist on professionalism in the classroom, whatever their ultimate career or vocational objective may be, I think is more than an option for us. I think it's a responsibility. And my question then to the panel is, we've heard, and I think in very good and useful detail what what the value add that we see from career management. What is it that we from the faculty side can do to perhaps enhance the ability of our students to be successful in a professional context?
I think, Dr. Ford, just as you said, if you see something, say something. If a student is walking into, even if you have to say it 1,000,001 times until they get it, I think that you should continue to bring anything that you notice to their attention. And if anything, add an explanation as to why, because they might not see the value at this very moment. I mean, we understand, but it's something that will impact them in the future. So you want them to start getting into the habits of this professionalism. And it's so funny that you say that, the whole comment, for example, because I do a lot of phone screens and I'm still surprised till this day how some people answer the phone. So you'll be surprised. Like, that's one of the things that can automatically just cut your interview short, because I'm just wondering why this person answered the phone in this manner when you know that your call is at 12:30 or whatever the case is, and they're not accounting for that. So I think that these are things that we definitely do have to bring up to them, because it is things that we're thinking about, especially as talent acquisition people, and we're not going to want to pass their resumes on to the next individual.
I mean, I was in Professors Ford class my last semester, and that was something new for me, because it was not like a classroom setting. It was more of an office settings, because there were so many, not things we just weren't allowed to do, like eat in the classroom, wear hats in the classroom. And that was a good experience. Thank you.
I didn't know it was that bad. Gee whiz.
I honestly have to agree with that.
It was a good bad. It was a good bad.
No, I think that examples like that are very helpful. Like, when I think about my high school example, I had one teacher who literally ran his class the way a college professor would run the class. So that, like, when we got into college, I was like, oh, that's why he did things this way. And I'm so glad that he did. And I think that we should do that as well. Like, treat our class environments like an office setting. There are certain things that you really should not be doing at work, and you should not be doing it in this classroom.
Right.
Dr. Crump, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I'd like to echo my colleagues in that this is a really wonderful panel. Really, really appreciate you all. Learned a lot. Hey, Venice. Hey, Dwight Getty. It's nice to see you all again, and nice to meet the new panelists as well. So my question relates to, I heard a lot that you all said, and definitely going to apply that. So beyond pipelining students into a company through internship, I was just wondering how to close the gap between what faculty members as individuals or as a department or as a school, what can we do more to have more formal connections? I have a dog, I'm sorry. But have more formal connections between curriculum development, which a lot of people have spoken to already. But Dwight, I heard you mention the success of the insurance program at Howard. And I know that's run by Dr. Choi, and he's a friend, and he did a really nice thing. So he was hired in the finance department at Howard because the major insurance companies wanted to connect with the Howard students. And so he came in there, and he was, for a long time, he was the only teacher. He taught all the classes, but if you looked at the program, the insurance companies were on the campus all the time, and they took those students all around the world. All right, so that was one professor connecting, right? So how can we do stuff like that with your companies? Elsa, I know with Mosaic Group, all those companies you mentioned, all those apps. Dwight, I know with the and all of the different insurance companies, especially when you were the vice president of the National Association of Black Insurance. Dog. So anyway,
Close. National African American Insurance Association.
Yes, I keep trying. I'm sorry, but that one, yeah.
That's all right.
And then Brooklyn Navy Yard and then Nanotronics. So Nanotronics. So I wanted, what's our next step? So you told us a lot that we can do, but what could a lay person, a lay faculty member, what can we do to create things where, in addition to just sending my students to do an internship, I would love to be able to partner. So again, with the Howard University, what was taught in the classes was co-developed equally between the guy who ran the program and the different insurance companies. It was it was like a marriage. And he wasn't teaching insurance theory, and he wasn't teaching isolated in terms of what industry wanted. So what's our next step? How can we create those types of bridges, especially with some of your companies? So that was the question. And thank you.
I can answer that, by saying, again, going back to my initial position on it, is that awareness is the most important thing. You got to know that this is a viable career opportunity. Yeah, it's a job that you can have right now, but this is a viable career path, this entire industry. The Howard thing was interesting because, I spoke at the symposium there 2018 and 2019, I believe, when the Howard students came. And it's interesting to see, first of all, they're getting a tremendous amount of support now from the industry. And that has to do with the fact that, again, it's one of the few schools that's predominantly African American that is, teaching students insurance related subjects. So they're getting support now. Now, when I spoke to one of the coordinators for that insurance day thing with the Howard students, I asked the question. I said, listen, are you recruiting from New York? And, I got a blank look like, well, why would we do that? I'm like, but you're bringing them here. You have all these schools right here, and I mentioned Medgar. You got Medgar in Brooklyn. Why aren't you, recruiting them? She had no idea, knew nothing about Medgar Evers. Now, again, it's a matter of being aware. Students aren't aware of the industry. The people in the industry aren't aware of the potential of the next generation of workforce. And I can prove that point very easily by referring back 6 months ago when the CEO of Wells Fargo said, we've been trying to recruit African-American talent. We can't find them. Really? You can't find African-American college graduates in 2020, really? Come on. But again, it's my role is to remove those excuses. And in removing those excuses, faculty can help by making the students aware of the opportunities and then developing a program that would help them understand more in depth what possibilities are there throughout the industry. If you have an economics degree, you already have some exposure to insurance. Now there may be need to get some more exposure to the industry itself. And I mentioned before licensing. Licensing is crucial because there's a lot of opportunities that are present because of licensing. And I don't want to go rambling off, but I do want to point out something because I had the stats here that I prepared from this for this morning. In 2019, the last year when they have the data, the US insurance industry, just the US, not global, premiums written, which is the amount of money that you pay for insurance and companies and everybody else pays for insurance, $1.32 trillion in 2019 alone. Okay, the industry split between property casualty, which is home, auto, business, that kind of thing, and life insurance. Property casualty 48%, life and annuity was 52%. The industry in 2019 employed 2.8 million people. Okay, the majority of those, almost 1 million, was in life. PNC had 650,000. Reinsurers had another 28,000. Now, McKinsey did a survey where they said that 20 to 40% of life insurance agents, people with a license to sell life insurance, were within a decade of retiring from the industry. 20 to 40% of life insurance, okay? On the property casualty side, the average age of a property casualty agent or broker is 54%. It's 54 years old, I'm sorry. 15% are age 66 or older. So what that should tell you is that there is a tremendous gap. And I look at that and I see opportunity. And that's what the students need to hear. And that's the message that has to be pushed. There is an opportunity here to get into this industry and find your way and make a career and make good money too.
Okay, so I just want to piggyback on that. There is going on in this country a graying of the workforce. So it's not just happening in insurance, it's happening in many, many major sectors of the economy. And so back to Dwight's point, there is a lot of opportunities for our students, but the industry keeps saying, well, we can't find them. But like Elsie and Dwight, they say you're not looking in all the right places. When they say they can't find diverse talent, they mean that the Howard student who has 10 offers, the Morehouse student who has 20 offers at Spelman, they only choose one. They can only have one job. And so they haven't looked deep enough. And so the rest of those positions go waiting. So I want to give props and kudos to all of our panelists who have said there is good talent right here in New York. You don't have to go to Georgia. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C., although, you know, that is my alma mater again. But I believe we create enough good talent right here in New York to keep those jobs at home.
I agree.
Yes, thank you. We've run over time. Are there any more questions from the faculty before we move forward with the next part of our program, which talks about our student satisfaction data?
Yeah, this is Professor Riddick. How are you?
Fine.
The question I had is one of the, and I apologize for not knowing the company, but one of the things that was said is that the students need basic knowledge. And I think that we're talking about computers, basic knowledge to get an internship. But if you're not a computer major, what courses would cover basic knowledge? So if you're in public administration or you're in business administration, what courses would give that person the necessary skills so that they can at least go for the interview and not be just eliminated because they don't have that background?
Hi, this is David. I'm from Computer Information Systems. We offer computer fundamental course, which is required for all School of Business students. And also we offer internet technology course, which teach them how to design web pages and working with HTML. And we also offer CIS 261, that's a modern computer application course. But basically we teach advanced Excel, and also we teach them how to use Excel and Python programming to analyze the data. And this data analytics skill is very important today. So those students taking those 3 classes, I'm very sure with their major, they can confidently present themselves to hiring managers.
And then also, just to add to that, from a career services perspective, if you look at just general courses for maybe a PA major, maybe business law, maybe public policy, foreign language would be important, and a basic computer science or computer engineering course, pardon me, a computer course. And then under the keywords, somebody who is a team player, somebody who understands Microsoft Office suite in its entirety, team building, client focused, critical thinking. Those are some general aspects of resumes moving forward based on my employer feedback. Those are skills that all employers are looking for. If you can critically think through problems, you can solve problems. And I think the majority of the information that I get back from employers is it's not about the discipline, it's about how people think, because we're looking for problem solvers to become team members in our organization. So if I were to give you any feedback on general courses for PA majors, business administration majors, and the like, it would be those courses.
Thank you.
I would also like to add, as someone who was a liberal arts major primarily in school, a lot of those skills were reinforced by the professors that I had, the technology in terms of building it into our writing assignments. So there were things that I had to learn that some of it was covered in my computer information courses, but it was also learned by me taking the initiative because my professors insisted that I add a table, a chart, an Excel spreadsheet, do a public speaking for the course using PowerPoint. So I was forced to go out and find and learn how to use those skills. And so some of those things will and should be reinforced outside of our required CIS courses. So those are some of the things that that I experienced in my studies, and some students are experiencing in some of their other courses at Medgar. Dr. Crump, you had a comment?
Yeah, I know.
Can I just add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry,
Sure.
Dr. Crump, you can go ahead.
No, sure. Go ahead, Dr.
Go ahead, please.
Jarrett.
Okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to add, I think this is really important in the conversation about curriculum development as well. As we've seen probably over the last, 15 to 20 years, the basic expectations of people coming into the workforce have changed. So people are supposed to know how to use, for example, Microsoft Office applications like Excel and Word to at least a very basic level. You're supposed to know how to use email applications. You're supposed to know how to do basic things on a computer. It used to be maybe 30, 40 years ago, typing was a skill that you had. Now everyone should know how to do that regardless of what you do kind of moving forward. So thinking about how we include industry partners and employers and everyone in those conversations when we're developing curriculum, so we know what those basic skills are, because they may not be something that can only be housed in a single course or a couple of courses, because not every student is going to get access to those, when every student should have the ability to do them when they're leaving their program, regardless of what they're doing, regardless of the program that they chose, because that's just what the larger workforce or industry demands now.
And I'll also add, I used to teach professional development courses that included basic skills, fundamentals to computing, for example, and keyboarding within a program at a local community college. And those courses are almost completely have been eliminated. So it's already telling us, if you're not in that field, like I was in the field, that all of us coming out of college, all the students coming out of college, and the professors teaching the courses are supposed to be fluent to some degree in regular or common Office applications processing. So, and that would include the Microsoft Office suite. I'll leave Access out of it, but database, the ability to understand a database and work within a database is definitely a requirement, and no one is going to necessarily train you on how to use these skills when you go into the workforce. You're supposed to already know it. So in the days of people saying that they're fluent in Microsoft Office, even being on your resume, that it may not necessarily be helpful, because you're supposed to already know how to do that. And it's a problem if you don't when you graduate from college. I'm sorry, Dr. Crump, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I was just going to say that I hope that maybe in some future conversation we could we could delve a little bit more deeper in companies that are passing by New York on the other programs, because what I believe is that, well, not what I believe, but it's a question. So those companies, when they go all the way down there to the program that Dwight Geddes was talking about, those students have been developed over 4 years on the curriculum of what the companies want in a person that they hire. So, you know, I was in those halls, I saw that, and I participated in those programs. And so, so that same company, if the argument is for us to just make our MEC students aware of those companies and make those companies aware of our MEC students, but our students haven't had that same development over those 4 years, then I think that I wish we could wrestle with that issue and discuss that with some of these panels. But I know we're out of time now, and I just wanted to bring that up for future purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we are out of time. But again, I want to thank all of our panelists for being here to present and discuss the topics that we talked about today, because they're important for the school and for the department and faculty to know what is needed as we are moving our students through our curriculum into the internships and into the professional world.